April 25th meeting of the Rolesville Planning Board to order. One note of change from tonight's agenda. It is April 25th, 2022, not 2021. Other than that, welcome everybody. Glad to see you here. The first item on the agenda after coming to order is the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this point, I'd ask everybody to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Moss, if we could once again call upon your services for an invocation.
All right. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and meet on behalf of the town. We'd like to ask for your blessing over this meeting, and we'd like to ask for your guidance and direction in the decisions we make tonight. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Next item up is review and approval of the planning board meeting minutes from March 28th. And the floor is open for any corrections or motions.
Mr. Chairman, hearing no corrections and having read the minutes, I make a motion we approve them.
We have a motion for approval with no corrections. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please give me an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are adopted. Thank you. On to item number 5, case MA 22-04, rezoning request for 414 South Main Street. Meredith, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Powers and members of the Planning Board. It's lovely to see you. The first rezoning case, MA 2204, 414 South Main Street, is brought to you by Optimal Development, LLC. It's a request to change the zoning from general industrial to general commercial conditional district for 4.23 acres. And based on the timing, this one's under the Land Development Ordinance. So James and Mike and I are excited about that. This aerial photograph shows where we are right here, Town Hall. You can see my mouse. So here's Town Hall, and here's Sonic, and the site is in between that, so 414 South Main Street. Great location. Zoom in a little bit. You can see it's somewhat across the street from Food Lion, just to help us all get oriented. This is the former Pine Glow site. The current zoning is general industrial, and staff believes that this is in place based on the former use, or Pine Glow, and the applicant would like to change the zoning to general commercial conditional district. The condition that the applicant is offering has to do with excluding a list of uses that are allowed by right in general commercial. And the list of uses the applicant is proposing to exclude with this condition: first, daycare, not a full exclusion, it would be potentially allowed by special use permit. And the applicant is proposing to exclude K through 12 schools, car wash, funeral home, gas station, tattoo establishment, vehicle uses, rental and sales and minor service, telecommunication towers, and water storage tower. And the intent in excluding these uses is to provide for a use that would bring more activity to Main Street. As per our comprehensive plan, the future land use classification is industrial. And again, staff believes that's in place because it was matching the former Pine Glow use. If this rezoning request is approved by the town board, then there's an automatic comprehensive plan, land use plan update that would go with it. So if the rezoning is approved, the future land use classification would change from industrial to commercial. Our Main Street Vision Plan was developed to help Rolesville grow, reestablish a true town center, and reclaim Main Street. pulled out 3 items from the Main Street Vision Plan I thought were applicable to this case. There are 5 principles and 5 goals, and one principle, number 5, states that quality development and redevelopment must be supported. This is a redevelopment opportunity. And goals 4 and 5 reestablish a town center and retain and respect a small town feel. Creating a commercial use and a potentially former industrial site will bring more activity and more of a town center feel to South Main Street. As per LDO section 8.c.4, the land development administrator, that's another name for planning director, may waive the requirement for a traffic impact analysis. And I know traffic is hot, and I wanted to explain this one. I don't want to waive the TIA. I'm recommending that the TIA be performed at the time of site plan submittal. The applicant is still working out details on what will happen with the site. So a traffic impact analysis with more specific information, I think, will be more useful for all of us at that time. Also, we do have Main Street construction plans that show some roadway improvements in this area. So based on alignment with the Main Street Vision Plan principles and goals, staff does recommend approval of map amendment 2204, 414 South Main Street. And there will be time for you all to ask questions. The applicant has provided a short presentation. I'd like to invite the applicant up at this time to present this to you.
Quick question before he starts.
Certainly.
The conditions on the zoning, that would carry regardless of the developers?
Correct.
I thought.
Yes, yes. So,
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody, planning chair. My name is Robert Shar. I am a local resident of Rolesville and a developer for the last 8 years. Done several projects in the Wake Forest market. My wife MJ and my son James, who's 6.5, enjoy Rolesville considerably. When I realized this opportunity came up, I got really excited about what we could potentially do and how we can impact Main Street in Rolesville. You'll notice the name of the project is Glow on Main Street. The intent, of course, is to give a little bit of love back to the existing ownership that's there now. But I also think, and actually Lisa was kind enough to come up with the name, and I think it's apropos for the space. Our intention of this site is really to bring a community feel and a community center to Rolesville. The base conversation when I started identifying highest and best use was really a sporting support complex that had everything from basketball to soccer to pickleball. I'm going to show you some of that on the slides here in a minute. Followed by some interesting restaurants in the middle of the space. And at the beginning of the space, the intention, I actually own a building in Wake Forest that has incredible demand for executive office space, where individuals can come in and rent and lease individual spaces, have shared conference space, be able to enjoy the day local to their home. A good majority of the global market is leaving corporate America and giving employees stipends. I believe there's a really big demand for that in marketplace. And then with the exterior of the space, our goal is to really create an interesting walking environment with everything from fire pits for s'mores and chocolate for the kids to dogs, and really just an entertainment center for families to enjoy the space. This is some of the motivation behind it. These are just conceptual plans and ideas. We are getting closer and closer. I actually have a considerable amount of letter of intents on the space. It potentially is fully leased up, obviously, depending on where this meeting goes, but we've got a lot of interest on the space. This is the concept and idea behind what the space and the building will look like. Really, this is conceptually for colors. I really enjoy the grays, the purple, and we are going to do a lot of darker brown accents in the design plan around the space, but you'll notice a lot of glass doors around the building, and the intention of that is to maintain an open space environment. God forbid COVID kicks in again, and the government tries to tell us whether we can or can't be open, but candidly, we're really just trying to make this space a place for families and our community to enjoy. With the open space, we are still working on, obviously, the number of doors that we need. Will be a lot of doors, a lot of glass, But this is the feel that I believe will look great on the site and in the space. The intention is to bring in restaurants, casual dining, to support. One of the sporting complexes I'm working with has several kids in the community that will be entering the space weekly, Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And our goal is to bring in restaurants that will support the parents as well as the other kids that come in. So our goal right now is to have 2, 3, or 4 different styles of restaurant that really appeal to all kinds of families and food preferences. Again, these are conceptual photos to give you an idea of what the feel of space will look like. And this is an idea of what it's almost like a WeWork style office space where people can work in an open environment, lease individual office space. There will be large conference space in the space as well at present, but just a great place for working individuals who need a place to work and not be at the house. For those of you who know Joyner Park, Ed Joyner Park, this is actually a photo of the interior. This is how I envision our space, though. I'm hoping to be able to get a second-story jogging center in there, but a work and training center as well in the space. So not only can you be working in the space, but you'll be able to take a break, hit the gym, and then grab a shower, head back into the office. This will also be a great place for kids who are looking for training and development opportunities. You'll notice we have, this is what's called glice. This is synthetic ice. We have strong interest from a group, a local group. It's actually, this is pretty exciting. Potentially a professional league will come in and support this center to train the youth of Raleigh. And again, the intention of the training center is really, this is about 3,000 square feet. This isn't going to be a full-fledged ice rink. It's really skills training, endurance training, hand-eye coordination. But you would skate on this ice, and a lot of the skates today, you flip out the blade and put on a glice blade, flip it back out, go on ice. Strictly training and development is really the plan. I've had several conversations with a very interested professional league that is interested in supporting this as well, and I think it would be an unbelievable location and just do a lot for the city of Rolesville. Can I go back on this? I hit the button too quick.
Sure.
I apologize. It's the heat, all that pollen. Sorry about that. Thank you, Meredith. You'll notice that the basketball court conversion as well in this photo. Pickleball, the amount of people that call me to develop pickleball courts around the globe is unbelievable. And so the demand, I started playing myself 3 weeks ago. I don't know if anyone in this room has tried it, but it is a lot of fun. And I'm planning on bringing in leagues, family environment, and really making this an opportunity for families to come and enjoy time with each other. My son, who is 6.5, will start next week with me and the wife. And I just think it adds to the community feeling what we're doing in the space. I haven't quite figured out what entertainment looks like on the outside yet, but the walking trails are a given. The fire pits, a real social environment, dog, walking park. I'd love to be able to bring in some really neat live music venues. I realize there are ordinances in and around that. We plan on respecting those, of course, at all times. But I think it's just a great place to bring Rolesville alive when it comes to the combination of everything we're doing and the complements in what we're doing. If you, how do I go back to the first slide? I'm sorry. One more point I'd like to make. I think I figured it out.
You got it. That one and then hit from current slide.
Thank you. You'll notice that there is a second story section. That's really, the plan for that is going to be around 3/4 of the building for an area for people to socialize, dine, as well as watch the sporting event, but also watch the kids outside. We may get trying to figure out if we can fit a pickleball court outside as well, but the goal is to really enjoy the indoor and the outdoor space. At present, we have a plan to have a mezzanine down the middle of the building where people can enjoy the interior space as well as the exterior space. So we really want to be able to, this site, if you've been there, I'm assuming most of us in the room know what site we're talking about. The right-hand side of the building offers just an unbelievable landscape to do very cool and creative things in the exterior and really bring the community together. That's the plan. How do we leverage views while the parents are enjoying their time on the deck, whether that be with food or a beer, and the kids are enjoying the exterior and still be able to watch them and not really worry. That's the idea behind the design plan. I've had numerous conversations with a lot of the sporting events, pickleball, the soccer, the basketball leagues. The parents ask for often a social environment again where they can enjoy, watch, and monitor. The interior of the space, for those of you who know anything about sports, the coaches in the sporting environments don't want the parents anywhere near the trainers and the kids. That's a big faux pas, apparently. And I remember when I played hockey when I was younger, I used to watch parents fight in the stands. So I remember and understand why they're doing that. The point being, we do plan on devising the site plan in which the restaurant/brewery, the families are able to sit in front of a glass wall and still watch the sporting events going on at all times, as well as the exterior. So it will be eclectic, but at the same time, in most spots in the building, you should be able to see what's going on. So that's really the intention. Very open space, and we're pretty excited about it. Thank you. Angelique? Thank you, Angelique. Angelique's my partner in crime. She keeps me in line, and she made me realize a very important thing that I haven't brought up. The title, and one of the reasons I enjoyed what Lisa brought to the table, was not just the glow on Main Street. I think the vibe itself speaks for itself. But we are trying to maintain as much of the integrity of the building as we possibly can. There's some really cool steel features in it. And the intention is to maintain as much of the space as we can, the integrity of the space. The building is in very good shape. The exterior is not a very pretty space. When we're done with it, it will be very attractive, and I think it'll be extremely appealing to the community, and I believe we'll drive a ton of traffic into the space and really generate an excitement in and around the project. But our goal is to maintain as much of the building footprint as we can. What has come to me that surprised me more than anything, this isn't a marketed site. As a developer, I bring on a lot of clients that ask what I'm doing and is there space available. We have more LOIs on the space than we do square footage. So while we're trying to maintain the footprint the best that we can, we realize the excitement level in and around what we're doing and what it could do, for Rolesville, but what it could do for the community. So while there are pressures coming at us, we do plan on maintaining as much of the integrity of the building as we can. One of the few restrictions that we have in a sporting environment is the roof line in the front of the building is 12.5 feet. The back of the building, I believe, spans from 14 to 27. So those are some of the challenges that we're dealing with. How do we get height? And does the building support raising the roof? Those are all the things that we're going through now. But our goal is to maintain as much of the integrity of the building as we can. Have I missed anything, Miss Angelique? Lisa? Have I left anything out?
Nothing's like the open air, right? The roll-up doors, bring light down the middle.
I brought a very prelim site plan. To Lisa's point, the space that we don't raise the roof on, we will be putting a very large span of,
Like windows, like.
not a night light, but we will be opening up the ceiling, almost like a skylight, with indirect light coming into the building, which will just open up the space. So we haven't quite finished the design plan, but to Lisa's point, the parts of the building that we don't replace with new, we will be opening up the roof line so we do have natural light coming into the building. We also believe the doors going around the building will have large impact. But again, our goal is to maintain as much of the building as we can at present. At this time, I'll open the floor to any questions, comments, or concerns.
Come back up. I have something to add.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Schwartz, you had a great question before this presentation began. You were asking if the developer was somebody different, would the condition still stand? Yes. So what is on the screen in front of you, the proposed zoning condition with the exclusion of the uses, is what is included with this rezoning request. So everything Mr. Sharp presented, of course, looks fantastic. It's not a condition on the zoning, it's just letting you know what's in the works.
So there is no condition of changing, so decide just the last minute that not interested, or somebody offers you a lot bigger money to take the property over. So those would no longer be condition of the zoning if somebody else was.
Right, unless something is offered this evening as an additional condition, no, the condition that's offered is the exclusion of the uses listed here. So someone else could come in and develop a commercial site, which, it still activates Main Street.
My lawyer tells me if it's not in writing, it's not real. So the other question I have on the daycare piece, right? Typical, I love the idea of what you're doing, right? So don't get me wrong. A lot of those type of facilities will have a on-site daycare drop-off. Does that have to be a condition of the building, or is the building itself, because you have a multi-use facility at that point?
Sure.
So if you added that particular part of the building, would you have to come back? Would you have to come back and do that?
No, with the exclusion of these uses, these are principal uses, so this would be the main use of the building. If there was an accessory use of childcare for the sporting facility, that would be different and fine.
It just could be a childcare.
Right.
Yeah, and if I could address the question as well, Jim. To Meredith's point, we would be doing accessory for the kids coming in that are not playing the sports. It would not be a daycare center. To touch on the other comment, for those, you guys know the development world, right? We're up against timelines on the seller side. So to your
Visit one of these
question,
properties all the time.
it's a great question. I am either going to develop the site, or I believe that this is going to get maintain similar use. But I can assure you that the seller has seen we're done from an approval perspective, capital stacks, everything's done on this site. And so I think the only thing that would happen if I did not take it down, my understanding is it would maintain its existing position as an industrial space, and a new leasee would come in. That's my understanding.
My understanding is that there were several different types of businesses that want to come in behind yours.
I'm just giving you the feedback I got from the seller directly, and maybe you have more insight than I do, but again,
And I love your idea, though, so don't get me wrong.
I appreciate it.
So let me just say.
Listen, I'm extremely excited. We're ready to go. I may run out of time in due diligence with the seller. That's the only thing that may slow us down. But we have commitment. There's things going on behind the scenes that I can't share, but when I mentioned we have a professional team coming in that wants to sponsor the space, we're far along on this process, to the point where if I can convert this in the timely fashion, not only will this come to fruition, but some really exciting things will come to the center. And again, I'm a resident of Rolesville. My son's 6.5. I want him to learn hockey, play hockey, enjoy pickleball, the community center. We don't have anything like this in the marketplace. People talk about the factory at all times, but those of you who have been there know what I'm talking about. It's not the same thing. Very different.
Mr. Sharp, really quick, just to kind of add to, is that how you say the last name, Shar?
Sharp.
Sharp.
Yes.
Cross.
Thank you.
To just kind of piggyback on what you were talking about, timeline and timeframes. So from start to finish, let's say everything goes according to plan, right?
September of next year.
That's from soup to nuts? That's from start to finish?
I'm hoping to have skates on the ice September of next year. The restrictions, of course, are how quick we get through the zoning process. That's the biggest holdup, but we're ready to order the materials to build. My bank loan is in place. My capital stack for the down is in place. It's really a question of how well we all work together, in my mind. Now, that's optimistic.
Sure.
So my birthday is December 13th. If it's not done by December 13th, I'm going to have indigestion. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens.
Very well. Quick question as well. Looking at, well, not on this map, but have you considered what's behind you? I believe there is a street there, Granite Ridge Drive. I just kind of noticed that. Do you have any plans to connect there, or thoughts?
That's a fantastic question. So I bought, what's the address, Lisa?
1501 Granite.
1501 Grand Rock Way, which almost abuts up against the property. I'd love to be able to connect the two, but we're going to look at, if we can't connect by road, looking at a one-lane opportunity, at the very least a walking trail to Grand Rock Way. I don't believe at present we have anything planned to connect to the street. And I've dealt with a lot of municipalities that mandate the connection, which I'm not opposed to. But I don't know the answer to that. I guess I need some insight from you guys.
It's okay.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
It's just to put it out there.
I think it's a great
so you
question,
can-
and I'm
yeah,
open
think
to
about
that.
it.
Listen, my goal is to make, we had the public hearing, nobody came to. So I guess everyone has faith in me. I'm not sure how to respond to that. Normally, we have people who come to the meeting, but we're open to that conversation. We want to support the community the best we can. We'd love for the homeowners to be happy with what we're doing. I got a call today from one of the homeowners that didn't make it, shared the plan with him. He was basically jumping up and down. So we're going to get together for coffee and kind of talk through it. But if I was living in the townhomes behind that space, my personal view of it would be, I'm excited to make it happen, but we only got feedback from one homeowner. But we're very open to the connection.
Gotcha. And for now, last question. The name, Glow on Main Street. I like it, I do. Just wasn't sure where you are with that name, because I like it, I really do, but I noticed that the letters are all caps. Does the GLOW stands for something like great lifestyle opportunity or what?
It's from Pine Grove.
It's from Pine Glow, yes, I figured
But
that.
the name Glow is just to support,
That's a good one, though. I like that.
but it's a great question. Hopefully we
I
can come
will
up with
bill you for
something.
that later, yeah.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
we didn't get that far, but it's
No.
really just to support what's been there. We were hoping that the owners
Sure.
would enjoy the name. And
Okay.
we think it adds a really good vibe. And if
Okay.
we're going to maintain some of the building, we'd like there to be an informational place for people to look and understand where the building started, and really just be a pinnacle for people to educate themselves on where the space has been and where it is.
You bet.
That's really the plan.
Oh, great, thanks.
But we support any recommendation on acronyms and GLO, so don't be shy to send on in thoughts. We're open to all of that. Our goal is to really get the community on board and have impact in a positive way. That's really our plan. We all know everyone's looking for experiential get-togethers, and if I can't think of a better way to do it than this. Keeping kids off the street, get them in the courts, get them on the ice rinks, get them playing pickleball, let the parents enjoy family time, and then break it outdoors with the dogs and just enjoy the space. It's a beautiful, beautiful lot. Hopefully I can convert it in time, and hopefully I get the support of the board. But I understand there's, to Jim's point, things can change quickly. We've all seen it.
So I just have a quick question as well. I love it. I will first say that. I do have a question about more of the construction and the timeline for construction, because this is on Main Street, and how, I don't know if you've gotten that far in thinking, but just thinking about, because one of the things that we talk about a lot is traffic. And so I just want to make sure that process has been thought out of how to manage kind of the main street and being able to continue the flow of traffic from morning to afternoon and, of course, throughout the day.
So, Ms. Pryor, the only way I can respond to that is I've done 5 buildings inside a 1-mile radius. We're always very conscientious of that. We don't want to upset the city or the town, more importantly, the community. I haven't had that issue yet. The team I use is a team I've used 5 times in the past, very well reputable group, and just outstanding at what they do. They do everything from their main projects are in the hundreds of millions, and so this is something that they do in their sleep.
Okay.
But we haven't got that far. I'm trying to maintain the contract and get to closing. But as a developer, without an approval, it makes it tough for me to put hard deposits down and all the things that come with the contractual obligation to sellers in today's market that have different expectations than buyers do.
Yeah.
And so to your point, I'm very sympathetic to that.
Okay.
The last thing I want to do is have you guys and gals upset, but more importantly, upset the community. Myself and Meredith had numerous conversations on traffic studies and the whole 9 yards. And I said, look at Rogers Road. That's a 2-lane highway with many, many, many more homes in that environment than I think what we're going to do on Main Street. I don't believe the impact will be that that large. I don't think we're going to feel it, and I think our planning team will make sure that's the case.
That's good.
So that's my commitment to the board.
And that's good. And to add to that question, and I just want to, and I'm thankful that you guys are conscientious about, just making sure that Main Street is, I'm just thinking out, the construction and all the traffic that's got to come in and out to do with, especially at this impact that you're trying to pull off. My next question was kind of about parking. I know for me, I live right down the street, so I probably will walk to it. So I'm not gonna have that issue. But just thinking about, if you invite friends into the community, and of course, the people that will come outside of Roseville, kind of the parking space or how.
I have a couple answers for you.
Okay.
That's the biggest concern for any real developer
Yeah.
is parking. The ordinance calls for 123 spots, if I'm not mistaken. No, 123 spots. We have in the plan 193 spots.
Okay.
Am I right? 123? So our plan has 193 parking spots.
Okay.
have to
But
say-
to take it to the next level, I'm sorry.
A plan has not been submitted yet, so I haven't seen it. And when the plan is reviewed,
Sure.
they'll have to meet the ordinance for the correct parking count, so.
Yeah.
I can tell you, based on what we've looked at with my civil, we're 75 spots above.
Okay.
But I'll take it a step further. We're looking, and I brought this up at our last meeting, I think, to identify ways to be able to allow cars to park in grass areas and what the requirement is for that to happen. I've also got a wink, wink, verbal approval to lease an acre beside us for more parking. I believe at 192 spots, we have plenty.
Yeah.
It's some of the cool venue events that I want to bring to the space that may require more than 192 spots.
Okay.
But the number one thing we're looking at is how to accommodate in the lawn sections of what we're doing, vis-a-vis your approval and what we can and can't do, to bring in more cars.
Okay.
I'm hoping that that's not the case, but that's one of our number one concerns. But we're 75 spots above the requirement, and that still doesn't make me happy. So we're looking at the other acre, we're looking at ways to create additional parking spots on the site. So it's a big concern for us as well.
Okay.
So the spot, the Grand Rock Way property that I bought, if we could get an attachment there by my civil said, if we can't get a 2-lane road, let's try and get a 1-way road in where there's additional parking on that site that could complement but we've taken it to that extent. How do we connect the two and put more parking spots in off hours? Because the retail space on Grand Rock Way will not be really utilized that much on weekends. We'll probably have 85 additional spots there. And if the food line was on our side of the street, we could take advantage of the other 195 parking spots they've got.
Yeah.
But we are working on ways to make sure that's not an issue.
Okay.
Because I believe that this site will drive some really interesting things into the property,
Yeah.
traffic-wise, and I think we can manage to it. I think the site's big enough. And at 192, 193, we'll be able to handle the day-to-day. It's the events that we need to concern ourselves with.
And so I'm so sorry, I be having thousands of questions. I say one.
That's okay.
And one more question.
I had dinner already.
So the rework space, so I bring that, how is that going to be managed by leasing? Because I know they work so many different ways. So when I've been in so many different kind of rework kind of situations. Is that going to be managed by the property owners, or would that be outsourced? And I say that because that makes changes of how Rolesville gets to have the advantage of it. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that too.
Excuse me, let me respond to that the best way I possibly can. I would like to lease out all the space. I am starting to talk through ideas with Michael in the economic development side of things, the state, on how I could get support into the property. But more importantly, I would love to identify a way to partner with the city and use the space. I didn't get that far,
Okay.
but I do have groups interested in leasing the space. Angelique and I have a pretty large workload I try and take on more than I should, but I would love to be able to identify ways to partner with Rolesville. And I haven't quite figured that out yet, but we haven't started asking, but we are going to very soon. I've actually made calls today to some of the state officials to identify exactly how I could go about that. And Michael has helped me make connections, but I've got a lot of the state guys that I've worked with on many other projects as well, so I'm working through that. I don't have a definitive answer, but I encourage recommendations and thoughts. My wife and I have talked a lot about training and development in the space for youth, underprivileged kids, educational things like credit,
Yeah.
banking, development, real estate. We would love to be able to do that in that space. I don't know if I have enough manpower to manage that section, but if I can find a key man or key woman, preferably a key woman, because they do better than what I can do, but all kidding aside, we are working through that. It's
Okay.
just very prelim.
And I understand that, and I bring that up because I'm always thinking about kind of the nonprofits, like you said, some of the underprivileged and people who sometimes can't have access to WeWorks and different things of that nature. So I wanted to, because based on who manages determines how that space gets used.
We already have training and development programs in place for the space if I maintain it, but
Okay.
I believe that we've got a good enough relationship with the one group we're talking to that would work with us as well. We just haven't got that far, but I would
Understand.
love to be able to achieve that. We're just not there yet. I'm trying to maintain the contract and get to the settlement table at this stage of the game.
I understand.
To make this come to fruition. But it's a great question. My heart and my wife's heart is in training and development. We do a lot of outreach together. Training and development is a big part of what we would love to do on the site. And one day, hopefully, I can find lodging as well. It's just, this is not the site to do that.
Yeah.
But we are working on those exact conversations as we speak.
Thank you.
I hope that wasn't too long-winded.
No.
Michelle, did you have a question?
I'm letting it sink in a little bit.
Let it sink in. While you let it sink in, I have just one, I don't know who to direct this question to, if it's going to be to our amazing planning director. But just when we get a chance to look at the traffic, the TIA, is there also something, I don't know if this is could be a request or something to think about. Again, those properties that are behind, just being mindful of any after-hours activities that could be disruptive to their livelihood, and privacy issues. I don't know how close they are, how close the venue is going to be, the property is going to be to those properties. So I know we don't have the answers yet, but just something to be mindful of is just being very delicate with those homeowners that are there as well.
I think that's an excellent point. There has to be that give and take and synergy with residents and non-residential development. And hopefully with the standards in our land development ordinance, we'll create the appropriate connections and buffers necessary to create a good development.
Absolutely.
Hey, one question for you, Meredith.
Certainly.
If this zoning does go through tonight, I know it didn't have to go to the town council for approval.
Yes.
What would be the next steps as far as the plan goes, as far as submissions and what boards the actual design plan comes back to?
Great question. So this case, after you all make a recommendation this evening, it is tentatively scheduled for the June 7th town board meeting. So at that time, there will be a public hearing, and the town board can vote on that. And then once, let's just say it gets approved. If it gets approved, then Mr. Shar can submit his site plan and traffic impact analysis request June 8th if he wants to. Well, actually, no, he has to match our submittal schedule.
Before June 7th.
So the site plan would be submitted following the rezoning approval.
Well, if it
So-
doesn't get approved, you won't have to worry about me, so that's the good news.
So site plan would be submitted, it would start in our July review cycle. And typically, we're seeing at least 3 rounds of comments on a plan, so that's, 15 weeks of back and forth to make sure everything's straight. And the traffic impact analysis takes a good 6 weeks to scope and do the study. And that can overlap with that site plan review time, or it could happen on the front end. So it will take several months to go through that development review process. Once that site plan is at the point where our technical review committee is comfortable that the comments have been addressed, then staff will bring it back to the town board for approval at that time. Because this is, let's say it gets approved, it's a conditional zoning. when a site plan is submitted in a conditional zoning district, it is required to go back to the town board for approval, which in this case is a great thing. I think it's something that our community will want to continue to have eyes on as it moves forward. I think people will be excited, but they'll want to keep eyes on a commercial project because there's a lot of desire and interest in that in our community, and I think people care about what's going on.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
think so, yes, it does.
How many months was that?
For the site plan review?
From here until, it just
Okay.
doesn't seem like it's so much until you like laid it out. It's gonna be a high school.
It's not that bad, hopefully. So July, August, September, let's say it's going through a review, development plan review, and Mr. Shar's team is doing a great job addressing the comments, bring it back to the town board in, September, October, then the site plan's approved, then can move on from there with building permits and other
Hopefully we get a
necessary steps.
conditional permit to get going, Michelle. That's happened to me in the past. but-
So Cobblestone's timeline is also the same timeline, would you say, 2023, next fall? So, wow,
That's a great question.
keep me honest.
Lots
I
of things
can't-
going on Main
There's
Street.
a lot of activity going on
Sure,
Main Street,
there's
so the
some
timing.
separation between those two, so.
Yeah, just to manage that and the timing of those things. So keep that in mind as we move along. Okay.
Mr. Chairman? As we think about scope just for the conditional zoning case that we have today, the only thing before you are the proffered conditions plus any other conditions that arise from our meeting that could be recommended on to the board. Anything beyond that would be, if it's not added as a condition, is really just you getting a better understanding of the applicant's concepts and dreams, but is not part of the plan itself. While it may not be the intent, properties transfer ownership, transfer development group, and the next group may have a completely different dream or vision. And so long as it fits in with our ordinance and the conditions, well, then it would be a different sort of a plan that eventually came forward by the time it was site plan. It could look extremely different. It could be retail. It could be, what could it be? It could be a commercial parking lot. It doesn't, so you're only considering general industrial versus general commercial at this point. And that's strange for this board because normally when we're seeing a rezoning case, we're moving from a low intensity status quo, it's rural residential of some sort, and the applicant wants to turn it into something more intense. Here your applicant already has the most intense, if you will, use already. Tomorrow, this could become a heavy industrial site handling benzene smelting and would not need to come forward for any sort of approval for that. It's permitted by right. So instead, it's not a downzoning that they're requesting, but just something different. And so as you think about scope of your recommendation, unless you want to add conditions relating to the fire pits and pickleball, that's just an idea. Instead, I would recommend staying focused on the GI or GC concepts.
That's part of the reason we've added additional zoning conditions. So some of the things that I think would be a takeaway from what's existing would not add value to the site. Part of the reason we put that to help the decision. Hopefully it does that. The other thing I will say before I sit down, I've had the opportunity to develop in Canada, 15 or 20 different states in the US, probably 55 different cities. Meredith is probably the most easy individual on a planning board I ever worked with. Please love and hug on Meredith as often as you can, and do not let her go no matter what happens with tonight's meeting. That's all I got.
Okay. So Dave, I do have a question from what you just stated. So there's a proposed zone conditions. Are those the conditions? Are you saying that we can recommend? Like if we want to say, yes, it can turn into a GC with the recommendation of no daycare. I mean, you know what I mean? Is that what you're saying or?
Correct.
Oh,
So,
it is. Okay.
So this board would make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. And essentially, in this case, the applicant has proffered certain conditions. If you all thought it was appropriate, you can have a conversation here that might alter your recommendation that goes forward to the Board of Commissioners. I'll just throw it out as a concept because I already said it. You might think, well, I think daycare should be an awesome thing there, so I want to keep it as permitted, and you would suggest not adding that one. But I really worry about the thing turning into a commercial parking lot where it's just a valet taking money for paid parking on Main Street.
Okay.
So some different recommendation could go forward to the board. I would suggest one condition be added explicitly, and that would be to follow up to Ms. Gruber's waiver, and that would be regardless of the eventual permitted use, any permitted use shall be accompanied by a TIA. Okay. We wouldn't do a traffic count assessment to see if a TIA is required. It just will be required for the site.
Okay.
I assume that's fine.
That makes sense.
Yeah, just a clarity item, because otherwise it would be lost.
Sure, that'd be great.
No, thank
I'm all done with questions.
Do I direct it towards Maury?
You check with the chair.
Okay. I do have a question for you, Chair Howard.
Yes, ma'am?
And it falls back on the conditions here again. Maybe even for Meredith. I think it's based on prior conversation, but why these?
Why exclude these uses? Sure. Well, we worked together on that. We had a meeting and discussed them. And the reason these uses were chosen was because they don't add pedestrian activity. When you're creating a main street in a downtown, you're trying to like reinvigorate the town center. You want uses where people are walking, experiencing something, creating activity on the street. These are uses that don't create that pedestrian activity. For example, vehicle rental and sales. That doesn't really inspire a walk by and a hangout.
Just as a beer truck in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That was our intention, for sure.
So create, this is a prime location on Main Street. So having a community use where people can work together, come together, have an experience, creates a downtown versus these uses that are listed here.
And it sure beats somebody buying it and using it for an equipment laydown yard. That's where the construction companies, this gentleman here probably knows all about laydown yards. It's where you park the heavy equipment when you don't have it on the job site. You're loading and unloading big trucks and they're going in and out. Not really conducive to pedestrian traffic up and down Main Street.
But I don't see that on there as a condition.
Well, no, if we left it
Oh, as
in
is.
industrial.
And so that goes back to my question, just so I'm understanding. So if we make the decision tonight to change it to general commercial conditional zoning district, no matter what happens, whether he acquires or sells, it still has to follow general commercial conditional zoning district. Am I correct?
Correct. The zoning runs with the land, so if this were to change hands and some other vision were to come along that doesn't fit with GC or with those conditions, someone would need to bring a new zoning case forward.
That's my question. Okay.
I'm out of questions. I'm good.
Jimmy, you look like you got a question.
No, I think I'm good. I'm looking forward to when I can have a beer there.
Were there anyone in the audience who wanted
September
to
23rd.
had any questions?
Would you mind coming up to the podium so we can hear you?
Mind standing?
Because our YouTube viewers can't hear you if you're back there, so. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Giles Ford. I'm actually the enthusiastic homeowner.
Awesome.
That-
Wouldn't mind giving us.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, you're.
You're asking how close the homes are. My house is actually in the picture. We're so close. I can just about hit it with a rock. I wouldn't, but I can. We're incredibly close. I was really excited about the idea. My sister is in her 20s. Me and my wife are in our 30s, and all the closest thing to a young family meetup place is the park on Main Street, and there's always people there. There are always young families. It's always full, and I've seen a huge interest in just people wanting, where do we go? Like, where should we go? Everybody wants to find somewhere to go, and unless you're going to somebody's house, you're going to the park. So, I mean, I know that we're not talking about the plan because, as you said, it could change hands. To me, you're talking about wanting to reclaim South Main Street and wanting to have a downtown feel and like somewhere to go and places to be. It seems like a slam dunk to me, changing the zoning. Like I've walked past that building so many times, walking across the street to go to McDonald's with my daughter. And it would be so nice to walk past something that's not industrial. So when my wife and I moved here like a year and a half ago, we bought one of the townhouses there, and we were just looking on Google Maps, like, oh yeah, let's see what's around here, and like it was just barren. There was just nothing on there, and we said, oh look, there's like downtown Rolesville. Let's go check it out. And we drove past it, not knowing that it was a downtown. We were like, oh, that was it. There it was, and it's gone now. So we love the small town feel. I love just the goals and stuff that you guys have planned of wanting to recapture downtown Rolesville. A lot of our friends that live in this area drive over to Wake Forest looking for something, fun, residential, commercial to do. I don't know what is going to end up there, but I feel like if you make it commercial, I will be nothing but excited about any plan that comes through, because anything is better than an industrial site if you're trying to make it a downtown feel. So, that's my 2 cents. I'm excited about this move. I was out of town for the meeting that he hosted, so I guess I'm surprised. I was one person that called, but yeah, me, my family, and our friends in the area, I know, would be nothing but excited about anything that resembles the plan that he just put forward. Thanks.
We didn't catch your last name.
Fort, F-O-R-T. Yeah.
Like Fort McAllister?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fort.
You're welcome. Let me sign the guest book really quick. Any questions?
And Meredith, this might be a question for you, and I might just not know this. As far as Roseville's, I guess, trying to think of more of like, probably curfew / time, think about, if they wanted to have a nightlife there, do we have ordinances and?
We do.
Okay.
We do. We have a noise ordinance.
I thought we did.
And believe the cutoff time is 11 p.m.
Okay.
And so no sounds, music, crazy things going on after that time.
It's a decibel level, if I remember correctly.
We
I
actually.
think it is, yeah.
We don't have a decibel level. We're talking about adding one, but it's, we do it based on complaints. So if something is too loud, you call the police and they'll come check it out. And then if you get a bunch of complaints, then it'll be dealt with.
Wake Forest has it's two different, it's a decibel level at one time and a much lower one than a second time, isn't it?
Jim, you just have to stop drinking beer at 9.
I know.
We do have a noise ordinance in place, and that is something we'll be cognizant of moving forward. Any other questions?
Ready?
Floor is open for
Yeah, I am
motions.
ready to make a motion to make a recommendation to the commissioners that we accept the conditional zoning proposed as is with the exclusions shown on the sheet, and adding the one condition as well around the TIA.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor for recommending approval with the proposed conditions plus a requirement for traffic impact analysis. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor,
Aye.
please signify with an aye.
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 Can't wait, huh? Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
So June...
June 7th, town board
7th.
meeting, if you'd like to attend or
Okay.
tune in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item up, and I think Mike has lead on this one, is the Elizabeth Springs Watershed Removal Area, which is MA 22-02, SUP 22-01, and PR 22-03.
Yes,
Hitting all the bases on this one.
yes. Good evening, planning board members. My name is Mike Ellebarger, senior planner with the planning department, and this case is a little bit unique. This is 3 applications coming to you as one package, and I will get into the reasons for that in just a moment. This group of applications and this project and the purpose here referred to generally as this watershed removal area, and again, that will come clear in just a moment. First, the subject property. This is the Elizabeth Springs subdivision project, which is on the northern end of town, on the west side of Averett Road, just south of Wade Avenue, Highway 98, outlined here in yellow. The area in green, get my mouse here, this is the general location of where that watershed overlay area is, and is the subject area for this group of applications. Zooming a little bit more in on the subject property, and this would be the boundary of the Elizabeth Springs subdivision, and these lots here are all within that watershed area and subject to this. Background. The Little River watershed is a protected area of Wake County. I've originally identified as a future water drinking source for the city of Raleigh's utilities. It is under both state, county, and local protection levels at different areas. And the overlay district generally restricts levels of development, either by lot size or by units per acre or impervious cover. Property removals are permitted from the watershed overlay area through a very intense permitting process, both at the state and then local levels, and through physical regrading of property. And that is what's occurred with this subject property. Some history here on the Elizabeth Springs project. Initially, it was known as Elizabeth Heights. That name changed at some point in the late 2010s. In the 2017-18 era, a special use permit and subdivision plat came before the town and was approved by the town boards. The Town Board of Commissioners. That approval was for 89 single-family detached lots and 98 townhome lots. And it's very specifically excluded what at that point in time was a 6.53 acre area that was in this watershed overlay area, which was that green area shown on that map just a moment ago. And that is the area adjacent to, farther east, adjacent to Averett Road. So the easternmost portion of this overall project called Elizabeth Springs. During 2019 and 2021, the applicant made several requests to remove this land from the watershed. And again, this is not just a local thing. This is with the state and Wake County. It's a group thing to remove it from this large overlay watershed protection area. In August of 2021, the state provided final approval that this area was physically removed from the watershed. So it was a few years of a process to get there. And throughout, there was a longstanding requirement and full intent by the developer to rezone this, again, the 6.5 acres that was in the watershed, to rezone it finally from the R40W, which was the holding district, W meant watershed, to the ultimate R and PUD zoning district, which is under the town's Unified Development Ordinance, which is the town's older ordinance at this moment. Now, of course, we had the Land Development Ordinance. So in general, the actions tonight here are a bit of a cleanup or a final summation of the watershed removal process that was required because a portion of this original tract of land, that was the Elizabeth Springs, Elizabeth Heights project, was in the watershed overlay. So the map amendment, or the rezoning application, was submitted in January of 2022, so just the beginning of this year. As I just mentioned, and it must be very clear, or made very clear, that the property is regulated under the town's UDO and not the LDO. So this is the older regulations. And if you were around at the adoption of the land development ordinance, you may recall that the R and PUD zoning district was not one of the districts that was translated or continued under the LDO. So it ceased to exist when the LDO was adopted. But it still does exist for properties subject to the UDO. And that's what this application is. So this is an application to a zoning district that does not translate or still maintain.
I am so sorry to interrupt. I just had a thought I needed to ask Mr. Neal something. Since these are, there's this one legislative item and two quasi-judicial items, should we have asked Commissioner Medley to leave?
Well, let me ask a question. When the special use permit was originally approved, did it not contain a condition that the property be regraded so as to include these lots?
I do understand that the area in the watershed overlay area was excluded from that special use permit. So it was
not a condition of that special use permit, it was excluded from consideration from that special use permit.
That is my understanding.
Too bad.
Kicking me out?
I'm kicking you out.
Okay, because I saw it, but I thought they were referring to the past that it was. All right.
Now, if the original plan had come in and been processed with a note, which we have had in the past, where those lots are shown, but there's a condition added noting that these lots cannot be developed and cannot be rezoned until the condition is satisfied to regrade and remove it from the watershed, then I don't know that you need a special use permit amendment because you're just doing the permit.
The land was vacant in those exhibits at that time.
Okay.
And it was
I
not.
do remember that conversation about, there was a whole discussion
Yep.
around regrading that, wasn't there?
That was a Perry Farm, I
That was the
think.
Perry Farm one?
I think that was a Perry Farm, not Elizabeth Heights at the time.
Yeah, I think you're
If I remember
There's
right.
been a couple of them.
Okay, but wait a minute, I want to, can we skip to the end and come back to this? Or is it because you already started and you can't?
We will certainly come back and get you as soon as it's over, as soon as we're done here.
All right, so I'll be otherwise, just,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Slide into a car, ready to all my way
Okay.
Alrighty. Text me, I'll knock that down. No, I'm not gonna do it, man.
We'll call you.
Thank you, just do that. And just don't come. I'm moving as fast as I can.
No, you're fine.
Do you think this one was regraded? I don't remember this one being regraded, but I do remember that one.
They have been, they've been working the last year or two, I think.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
For the board's benefit, I did advise Counselor Medley that this matter may only take a few minutes, and so Ms. Medley's going to wait just outside. If it does look like we're going to continue in a deliberation that could take 30 or an hour, then I'll run out there and let her know, and she can make her own decisions.
Thank you.
I'll be as quick as possible here. Just a quick overview of the UDO's review process under the R and PUD zoning district. With a map amendment to go to the R and PUD district, a special use permit is required, which will eventually have I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Pardon me. For the map amendment, that is a legislative application. It does require a special use permit as companion. The map amendment will have a public hearing by the town board, and will go through its normal rezoning procedures, as the code says, which would be a legislative public hearing. Now, the special use permit and the preliminary subdivision plats, those two applications, when under the RNPUD zoning district, under the UDO, require evidentiary quasi-judicial public hearings before the town board. So those two items will be brought forth under that overhead, if you will, of a quasi-judicial hearing. The applicant will provide testimony for findings of facts, and the board can approve or deny as such. And then the town board will also review and approve the preliminary subdivision plat. So that's how the three applications, the map amendment, the special use permit, and the preliminary plat, all come together and are required to be brought forth as a package under the RNPUD zoning district. So these applications in general, the non-watershed subdivision was zoned RNPUD. The map amendment here before you tonight requests the same RNPUD zoning district. The special use permit is asking to raise the maximum lot counts from, like, remember, it was 89 single-family and 98 townhomes to maximums of 100 single-family detached and 105 townhomes. And the preliminary plat.
What were those numbers again?
As approved, 89 singles, 98 towns. And this package of applications, if you will, is asking to raise them to 100 and 105. And again, that preliminary plat is showing that conceptual layout or how those lots would be developed. Just looking again at the future land use map, this area is a medium density residential, and the type of lot layout and densities are all consistent with that future land use map or future land use designation, which again is also consistent with how the existing Elizabeth Springs has been planned out and platted. And here's an example from one of the submittals here, the preliminary plat, showing that area. Again, it's on the east side. The lots in purple would be those single-family lots that could be achieved with this package of applications. And you see right here, this is that R40W line, or that edge of the overlay, the watershed overlay district area. So this is the area here that was excluded from previous entitlements. Staff's analysis is that through review, all application comments were resolved and there are no further, and staff does recommend that the planning board make a recommendation to the town board that they hold a public hearing on the map amendment 2202 and a quasi-judicial hearing on the SUP and preliminary subdivision plat cases. The applicant and a representative from their surveying and consulting firm are here if they would like to answer any questions that you may have for them.
Right off the bat, I guess I'll ask, I assume the stormwater controls have enough capacity already built in for the extra acreage?
Either would like to come up and introduce yourself.
I'm Megan Masters. I'm representing Bateman Civil Survey, so I helped with a lot of these applications. So yes, it is my understanding everything has been resolved with stormwater.
Any other questions? Comments? Floor is open for motions if there are.
I have a question.
Oh,
I'm not sure
please do.
exactly. Gentlemen, I'm sorry. What was your name again? Are you Christine?
Michael.
You're Michael?
Yes.
Hi, Michael. So, Michael, what would happen if we were to deny this today?
If you made a recommendation of denial to
Yes.
the board, the application would go to the town board for their consideration with your recommendation of denial.
Good. That's it. That's all I have.
Floor is open. Any motions?
Somebody? Do another one? Yeah, I'll go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make a motion if there's no further questions. All right, so I move to recommend approval of MA 22-02, Supplemental 22-01, and PR 22-03, Elizabeth Springs Watershed Removal Area to the Town Board of Commissioners.
There's a motion for recommending approval. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please give me an aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nay.
We have one opposed, Mr. Cross. The ayes having it, we'll be moving forward for the town board's consideration. And if we can take just a moment to see if Commissioner Medley is still available.
That was quick. She didn't have to stand out there very long.
Wait 5 minutes.
What the process, getting that moved, that line moved. You know what I mean?
I think when they did all the permitting, all the stuff, basically they said, hey, we've agreed, we've done this piece, we've gone through the stages.
Yeah, the state's approved it,
So
right.
once you've done there, you're like, right, this is
Right.
a new point, it's always gonna happen.
Welcome back.
You're on timeout. Compare yourself there.
If his tires are a little low, call the fire department here. Put it on.
We'll take it, oh. What?
You got flat tires? That's why I parked far away. So the road start.
You said that before, too.
Next up is Planning Director's Report.
Yes, I just have two very quick items for you. Remember, tomorrow night at 6:30 PM in the Community Center is the Board Appreciation Dinner. So I hope you all will be there. Yes. And-
Where's the community center?
It is right there.
Oh.
So if you go through that door, it becomes the Community Center.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So we'll have it unlocked, I hope.
Okay.
And the other item, just wanted to share that Shelley Raby on our staff has been going through some great GIS training, and I'm pleased to report that our development webpage is in better shape and more up to date. So if you go to the development projects map that's on the page, I like to hit the make the map bigger so it fills up your whole screen on your monitor, and you can scroll around and look at the projects and click on them and go to the project webpage. So everything is up to date if you want to play around with that. So we'll say thank you to Shelley for that.
Thanks, Shelley.
And that is all I have. Any questions? Great.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Neal?
Two items, Mr. Chair. One is from the last work session of the Board of Commissioners. The board took up the question of term limits for the appointed boards for the town. I don't know, I'm assuming that everyone was watching on YouTube as you do for all of the board's meetings, but the board did seem to come around the concept of imposing a 2-term limit, the 3-year terms on all of the boards. And I was charged with drafting that language, and that is a work in progress. For those board members that have already served 2 full terms, assuming the board were to adopt this ordinance, you would be eligible for 1 additional full term at the time of its adoption. So to test that out, if you have a year left and the board were to adopt this over the next 2 months, you would be able to submit an application to be reappointed for 1 additional term, even if you've already served for 47 years. Any questions on that one? I know that that's one that you all have discussed yourselves and board members have discussed with you. And it's actually a practice that was already informally being used by the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. The second item is a procedural one.
Wait a minute, didn't we also have the 1 year? Did you say that part? Did I miss it?
I didn't cover everything. Is there something we wanted to add?
Didn't they say that after 1 year, if you wanted to go back on, you'd have to wait a year to go back?
That's right. So if you were term limited, you are not, at least as the board was expressing its sentiment and in terms of how it's being drafted, this is not a term limit for life. Instead, you would have to rotate off for 1 year.
Consecutive.
So you can do
Can't
total
serve.
6 years off for a year to go back.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. That's an excellent point. The other item is a procedural matter and one that the Board of Commissioners is looking at more and more, and one that as we end up with more controversial cases here under the new LDO, I would remind the members, if you can remember, to please route your inquiries through the chair, through Mr. Powers or whomever is serving as the chair. Seek to be acknowledged by the chair and then ask your question to whomever is in the audience so that we don't end up with audience members confused and believing it's appropriate to say whatever they will. It has become an issue at times, not so much for this board, but where emotions do get charged. It's nice to have a single voice coming from the board and an opportunity for the chair to try to keep some control. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other business? Commissioner Medley, did you have?
I just wanted to be transparent, and when I was whispering and writing notes to the attorney, I said, well, I have a question. And he said, well, you know, you got to keep it based on what the issues were, not what the possibilities are. And also to direct it to you. So you asked a question that I wanted to ask, so it kind of solved itself right there. But that's what and I don't like to whisper when somebody's talking, because I do think it's rude, but sometimes I was just trying to be professional when things moving forward. So that's why I whispered to him, I wrote him a little note, and that was it. I'm sorry my mic's not on. But anyway, that's all I have to say. That's it. I just want to be transparent. That's what I was whispering. I wasn't talking about anybody.
And please remember to turn your mic on before you speak.
Yes.
Any other business? Not hearing any. The final item of the evening is on the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion for adjournment. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please give me an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.